everyone receive is a reflection of us.
Welcome. Today I felt more of a pull towards the night side of self. Listening to the new Disturbed song, I Will Not Break. Highly recommended. I think even in the world of spirituality, there must always be balance. There must always be the yin to the yang. That coming together of the light and the dark. A lot of times people find themselves in so much of the positivity, they don't embrace the night side or the darkness. And they are so caught up in that lightness that they fade away. They can't sustain it because they're not at balance, at peace within themselves. So I find myself sometimes listening to these types of artists or the heavier side of music because it's empowering, it's uplifting, it connects to us. It drives that masculine man to stand up and take their oppressors down. Not in a savage way, but in a masculine way. This current living status in Australia and across the world gladly is getting worse. Whether this is the way of the world changing and turning into something new, perhaps. But it's particularly bad with the state of living, the overuse of multiculturalism and immigration. Australia has been sold out, my dear friends, to other countries, specifically Bhutan and India. All these places that the governments went to during COVID. They specifically went out there and made sure that they themselves were sorted. But they crushed the Australian spirit and the Australian people, and then they brought in foreign investors. This is what they did. They took down the Australian men and the Australian spirit over decades and millennia. This isn't just Australia, they're doing it all over the world. This is a joint effort amongst these types of communities, these types of so-called leaderships. So times like this where everything seems to be at a loss is gaining traction amongst the community, amongst the right people who are starting to catch on, starting to see this is what's starting to happen. More and more people are starting getting involved. They are taking your land titles, making them digital. They are removing it so that they can wipe you out. I've said this to many people. Only will the mainstream people or main communities that are the majority of the population will start getting involved when it reaches their dinner table. If it doesn't affect them, they don't care. But you see, that night side that gives us that strength, that rebellious nature. How many of you, when you were a teenager, or even now, love an underdog, or love that rebellious nature within people, within movies? Like to fight the system, stand up for what you believe in. You look at the movie Riddick. They talk about how people are either having to conform or to change or die. You have a look at that scenario and where the governments are today. So what stops that? What stops that control of a higher power? Well, masculinity, strength, lack of fear. Now, I'm not discerning between male and female. This is masculinity within us all. That male strength to stand up, like the movie 300 and famous Leonidas. That strength. Everyone loves those movies because it empowers us, because it connects to us that we've done this in past lives, that is born innately within us. This is their whole agenda, was to take out that strength, to turn men and women into these soft beings that they can walk all over, that are fearful for their lives. Why don't men and women across the world, all in unison, walk and march and get rid of the people in power? Fear. They have placed fear on you. And more than just one. Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of losing your child, fear of leaving your child or your family behind, fear of death. All these little tangible things that you now have a part of, that you now have to think of before you go and do something rash. That is the psychology, the psychosis behind to make you stop standing up. And they use that fear and fear of death. For if you stand up there, there's going to be army and police and you might get shot. You might go to jail. So they have removed that masculine, that strength, that power from people. And they've done it through means of food and toxicologies and all sorts of things, whether it's clothing and air and toxins, all of it. So ask yourself, when you listen to these music, Rage Against the Machine, Disturbed, when you watch these movies like 300 and The Immortals and all of these sorts of things that really get us going, where are they now? And why aren't we in unison? We see rallies going on, but what actually gets done? Apart from a rally being held where people have megaphones and whistles, but nothing gets done. If everyone was on side with no fear, I don't mean to do idiotic things, but that power of people together, all within the same frequency, and you storm the Capitol or you walk through, they're not going to stop you. And if they do, it's mass murder on their behalf. Now, I'm not inciting violence. I'm just saying that whole scenario is governed by fear because that's how they will use it. But as long as you think positive, if they do, that's on them. You have to live your life in this world without fear of what may be. And you do it. And you have that respect and that power, for you are who you are and your family. It's not ego. It's not pride. It's strength. It's purity. It's honor. And it's respect for those that you love. This is what they've removed over the centuries and the millennia. Look at the state of masculinity in men now. And then look at the people who are currently in power, in government and title positions. They are scrawny little beings. They are no good. They're demonic. They are, in one for a better word, just the worst of society that couldn't make it. We see it in cartoons. I think it's Baby Boss and these sorts of things. When someone is in a position where they cannot fight, they cannot stand up for it, all they have is manipulation tactics. These are the types of people that try to weasel their way, and that's what they are. They're weasels. And then they have used money and greed and all these sorts of things. We see America doing great things. I'm not saying the current government is any better or worse, but what it's doing is highlighting factors, bringing trade back within its own self, rebuilding itself. So in that very notion, it's good. And I believe all countries are the same. Before you start helping others, help yourself. They say it in airplanes with the oxygen. If you're not well, you can't teach or train someone, you get better. So why is it in the state of countries and governments and politics and businesses that we're always trying to assist others, but yet we don't help ourselves? Well, that's because they're weasels. They don't understand what it is to have passion for people and humanity. All they care about is that when their term is over, people are worse off. They have their mansions and their $1 million, and they will forever be sorted and happy, and their children will live long lives. These reptilian beings, or whoever they may be, are nasty characters. But you see, that is coming more and more evident. The problem is in Australia is there are people who can't do anything about it. I mean, look at those things about why did you let it happen? This was the whole COVID thing. This was the whole, that people let it happen because they're indoctrinated. The only way you can let it happen is to let it happen. That's the harsh reality of a lot of things, but here in Australia it's pretty bad. I'm one of those beings that I need that night side within me because it keeps me balanced. That dragon, that dark force behind me pushes me through. And in conjunction with the light, that's powerful. It's not evil. It's beautiful. It's strength. It's inner core values. My life has been quite hard, quite a struggle. There aren't many people who see the world the way I do, or have experienced the things that I have, and you and others as well. We're all different. Put me in a place of power within the government to lead the people, and I will be not a savior. I'll be the one that brings humanity back to Australia. We rebuild the societies. We do everything in conjunction with all of that. And there are so many people that can help assist that. This false charade of a government and democracy that people claim all around the world is just a show, a theater. They don't actually do anything. They take money and they have implemented it and they do nothing. And then they all talk about it inside a giant chamber and say some things. All the meanwhile, the distractions are there in front of us, making us more sick and tired and miserable and going to work every day. You don't get paid as much. Everything is going up, but you're not getting pay increases. So you don't feel like it. Again, this is exactly their motives, what they try to do to that strength. Because the only thing that can take down these types of people is strength in numbers. And not by force. By consciousness, yes. By evolution, yes. By male and female togetherness. With a little assistance from the Guardians of the Galaxy, of course. So this was just something for me to, I suppose, get off my chest, because when I look at Australia in its current position, it doesn't look good. And there are so many people in positions that can really make a difference to this land. So although it's not something that's positive and uplifting, It's more a call to arms. It's more a remember to keep balance within positivity and love and light. To remain that balanced individual that you are. To remember that light has darkness and darkness has light. And no matter what we do, we are on the right road. Where does it go? That is the challenge that I am willing to follow. No matter how hard it gets, I will endeavor to help us all. So just with that, I leave you with peace and love. Take care.